It's not hard and credited towards the purchase price. It is released to the seller and then credited to the purchase price. So the money is literally gone. The title company doesn't even have it.
And think about that. If you're a seller and you've got let's say you have a nice asset, not a foreclosure or some ugly, piece of crap. You got something people want, and you just got 10% of the purchase price. Let's say it's a $6 million deal. You got $600,000 released in your pocket.
Wow.
You don't even want that seller or that buyer to buy it.
No, you don't.
Right? You just want to auction it again.
You're hoping
I love this. I got 10%, know? And so nobody's motivated to help you at that point.
Nobody.
You are on your own, and whatever you find that's negative on that property, you own it.
You will.
You will find something negative, and you own it now, unless you want to forego 10% of the purchase price, which is too painful.
If you do, I've got something I'd like to auction you.
Yeah.
All right, what is up, and welcome back to How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate. Today is an exciting day. Every day is an exciting day because today we are talking about auctions. So it's kind of untraditional, but you can pretty much buy anything on an auction. You can buy almost anything on an auction, and commercial real estate is absolutely no different.
Yeah, and more every day, people are deciding to put their properties on auction. Before, it was like the worst of the worst properties go on auctions. Now you're seeing normal, cash flowing, stabilized assets using the auction platform because of some of the benefits or perceived benefits from the sellers.
So what are some benefits? Why would you put your property on an auction site instead of just listing it with a broker?
It's a very interesting seller profile.
Do they think, the only reason might be either to get it done really fast, I suppose, right? Because it's pretty much done, or they think they can make more money. Maybe there's a bidding frenzy or something.
And this is just my opinion, but I kind of think you get a broker's opinion of value. You go to the broker and you say, hey, what is my property worth? And they say it's worth, let's just say $7 million. And you would have been freaking ecstatic with $6 million. Mm-hmm. At that point, that's a pretty good profile because the broker says, hey, let's set the reserve at 6 if you're happy with that. But I think we can get enough attention to where we can get this bid up to 7 if we get it in front of the right people. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's some potential perception that you might get a bidding frenzy where people they've done all the due diligence, and if they just bid another $50,000, they can get it.
Yeah, right.
And then you kind of let it ratchet up. But I think the big driver for sellers on auction platforms is a guaranteed sale. Mm-hmm. So many times in commercial real estate, time kills deals, interest rates can kill deals. And so locking down those buyers and having them commit and getting that deal sold, if you have let's say a reason you need to sell, this can be a great avenue because of the tight restrictions they put on buyers.
Well, we'll get into those restrictions in a second.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, there's a couple sites that we've used in the past. And those sites are pretty good. One of them is auction.com, which transformed into 10X. The other one is Real Insight Marketplace.
RImarketplace.com, I think.
And we've bid on both of those sites in the past month. I think we've bid on 3 or 4 different properties on auction. All of them we lost.
At least initially.
Yeah. At least initially. Yeah. We got a call back on one. But anyway, those 2 sites you can pay attention to, and they're always going to have deals on there. They typically give you a month to 45 days beforehand to look it out. You can see it, and there's, you have to get registered. Once you see it on there, how do you buy it? You get registered.
And 10X is or these 2 sites only do commercial real estate? They don't do housing?
I think they
may do a housing portfolio, but it's strictly commercial.
They do multifamily, right?
They do multifamily. Yep. I believe 10X has a sister site that does residential houses.
Okay.
For home flippers and things. But okay, so let's talk about it. You got to get registered first.
Yep.
And it's not just about signing up your name. They want to know who the bidder is. They want to have entity documents if you're bidding like by a company. They will want to have some form of payment because when you bid, you're obligating yourself. Mm-hmm. And I believe like in 10X, you have to give them a credit card number or something for that, like a $25,000 retainer in case you bid and don't buy it, they can come after you.
Okay.
Is that right?
Maybe they charged Joel a credit card fee, but they didn't charge us a credit card fee.
We're a good credit risk.
Okay, maybe. That I know I've done that in the past where
I think it used to be on there.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah, I think it did too. Yeah.
But they don't just let...
They want proof of funds? What about proof of funds to prove that you can actually buy it. Is that part of the registration?
Yeah, and it's one of the toughest parts of getting registered to bid is they will only let you bid up to an amount that you have available cash in the bank.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Okay. Time out, pause on the play. So this is huge. This is huge, right? So before you can even put one bid, before you can register, before you can do anything, you've got to have a cash equivalent of the purchase price.
Well, you can register with all of your information, and now you're registered and you can see the auction. But yeah, before they will unlock you to make a bid, to place a bid on a property, whatever amount you want to bid, you will have to substantiate those funds in cash. At least that's my experience.
Or liquid funds. I mean, could it be stock?
Yes, anything that you can immediately liquidate.
Yeah, okay.
That's what they want.
What about a term sheet or a commitment letter from a bank?
That will help you as well. Because we've done that before, where if you have that in hand, they will then, and you can show maybe 30 or 40% of the purchase price and a term sheet, they'll allow that as well.
So what I'm hearing here is you've got to be willing and able. You've got to convince these people why you should be allowed to bid on this property with some sort of combination of cash and debt that you can prove to them before they even let you bid.
Yeah, they're hyper focused, laser focused on getting these assets closed after the auction. So the idea that just anybody can go throw a bid on, it could literally wreck the entire auction if you're not serious.
Yeah.
And people, I mean, it takes thousands of dollars to underwrite these deals ahead of time and spending a lot of man hours getting ready to bid. And these are big companies that are bidding. And so if someone could just come on and ruin it, it wouldn't be a productive platform for people to be on. So they have to ensure that the bidders on there are both serious, have done their homework, and have the ability to close if and when they win that auction.
And so you talked about underwriting. How much time do you typically have by the time it goes on the auction site until the auction actually happens? Is there a typical time, or is it more than 30 days? Or, I mean, do they typically give you plenty of time to underwrite it?
Typically plenty of time,
Okay.
30, 45 days, maybe even 60. I mean, from the time we're aware of it, somebody sends us an email, we finally check it out. There's around a few weeks left, which is plenty of time for us to take that information and throw it into a model. But let's get into that, because
now we're registered. Let's say we're registered. We like a property. Mm-hmm. We upload proof of funds. Now we're ready to bid. But what do we do? How do we evaluate these properties?
Yeah. Is it any different than any other property that you might find through a broker?
I think it's drastically different.
Really?
Depending on the circumstances. I mean, we have one in contract right now that we lost initially. They came back to us. We have it in contract now. We'll get into the details of how that happened in a second, but it's in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Mm-hmm. I've never been to Stone Mountain, Georgia. We're about to go to Stone Mountain, Georgia, of course, because we're buying this deal. But there's some risk involved. So we've never been there. You can't fly to every site you're bidding on before you do it. That just doesn't make sense. So you've got to underwrite way more modestly, in my opinion.
Yeah, good point. You're not, because the auction is the format that it's in, that you could get outbid at any time. You're not sure that you're ever going to buy it.
Correct.
And so, like you say, you're not necessarily going to buy a plane ticket and go fly to this property.
Yeah.
You're not going to spend money on property condition reports and all your environmental reports and all of these things, because your chances of winning are low.
Yeah, right.
You don't know what price it's going to go for. You don't even know if you want to buy it. You just know that you might want to bid on it.
Yeah.
So how the auction site goes about trying to appease potential buyers is that they get the property condition report done. They do a phase one. They do an appraisal potentially, and they upload all of this into a due diligence folder.
Okay.
And so that way, they can put people at least somewhat at ease that someone's looked at this property. The roof needs replaced. The parking lot needs $200,000 over the next 5 years. And they kind of let you know some of this stuff. So that's how it's different, in that you're not going to actually do a lot of the due diligence yourself, but some or most of the information you're going to need to make an informed decision is already uploaded on the site.
All right.
Yeah, and you have to hedge that, knowing the seller of the property paid for that inspection to be done. So, if there's something wrong with the roof, maybe, you should pay attention to that. If there's something noted, you really need to be a little bit more cautious than you normally would if you've had eyes on the ground, if you've got a reasonable inspection period where you can inspect and cancel. We tried to put our appraisal on this deal in Atlanta, and the guy called me. He's like, "Hey, you're not supposed to do any inspections." I'm like, "This is an appraisal. This isn't even an inspection."
I didn't know that they said that.
They're super tight on inspections because you kind of waive the right to any inspections. Like I said, when you're bidding on this, it's not just a button that you hit. That is a binding contract. You're signing a lot of stuff. You're paying a lot of fees. You are buying that if you hit that button. It's not going to be good if you can't.
Yeah, so let me talk then about some of the negatives that you need to watch out for when you're doing your underwriting. We've already kind of talked about the due diligence process and how you're not going to be on site before you bid, most likely, and that you haven't performed all of the reports that you would normally do. But you have them, and you say the seller paid for it, but I'm going to assume that 10X, let's say, is doing their best to have an accurate representation, because what would be bad for their auction side is to have a bunch of sham reports put together by a seller.
Agree.
That aren't accurate.
Yeah.
It is paid by the seller, but I do think that they are trying to be accurate with the representation so they don't get sued later.
Right.
But there's a couple other negatives. One is you have to agree to their purchase and sale agreement in its current form without any changes, and it is written in the seller's favor or in the auction platform's favor.
So there's no negotiating on the PSA.
There's no negotiating on the PSA.
Zero.
And so that you're basically, there's no outs. You know, you are waiving your due diligence, you're waiving all of your inspections, and you're going to close no matter what. It's that kind of language.
But you know what that PSA says, because that's part of the due diligence. So you know exactly what it's going to say before you buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's uploaded.
Okay.
Number two is there's a 5% buyer's premium fee that you have to add to the price. And I think that's a huge benefit for the auction site and a negative for buyers, because it's human nature to kind of disregard the fee and say, oh, I'm buying it for $6 million. Well, 5% of $6 million is $300,000. It's a lot. And so you're not buying it for $6 million, you're buying it for $6.3 million.
Yeah.
And so you really have to mentally add that full 5% in. And that, I think, pays for brokerage commission and auction platform fees and things like that. And so that's number two negative, is you're getting 5% added to every bid.
Okay, so every time you bid, if you win the bid, then they're going to add 5%, and that's your price.
That's your price, not what you're bidding.
5% is significant.
And like you said, it's kind of sneaky because you'll hit that button and you'll bid $6 million, but it's really 6.3.
Yeah.
So they don't show you the full price, including the fees. So they ask you every time you get on the phone with these people. Yeah, and you remember there's a 5% transaction fee. Yeah, and you don't forget about that 5%.
Yeah.
I mean, they are hawks on the fee.
Yeah.
You're paying it.
I'm sure people have forgotten before.
And that's a rough conversation.
Yeah,
you know what I
right.
mean? They're pissed.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's pissed at that point.
So number three negative is you have a 30-day window to close if you are in fact the winner.
Yeah, that's pretty short.
That is tough. Most people don't want to be under that kind of pressure. Most lenders are going to take longer than that. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, they will have an option to extend, maybe a 15-day or a 30-day. But my first auction experience, we were the winning bid. I wired the money, and we immediately engaged the lender, and we ordered the appraisal. Well, the appraiser was really busy, and so he's like, I can't get to it. I'm going to be 9 days late. And I think it was like $2,500 a day penalty.
Oh, wow.
I think. So whatever that is.
That sounds right. I remember that.
$20,000, $30,000. And at the time I didn't have any money. I was like, oh my gosh. So I called the appraiser. I'm like, hey man, if you got some guys that can work a weekend, I got some money for you.
Yeah.
And I was going to pay him half, let's say $10,000 just to get it in on time, $1,000 a day. Oh, no, I can't work my guys overtime like that. And I'm like, what do you mean? They'll have money for a vacation, like if they just spend a few extra hours. But he wouldn't do it. They were 9 days late, and I paid $20-some thousand in penalty.
That's crazy.
So it's a real burden to fully close a commercial real estate transaction in 30 days. That's number three burden on the underwriting.
And would you ever talk to a lender before an auction, or is that kind of like flying out there to see it?
I would definitely,
chances are so low.
I would send the OM to a lender and definitely be getting soft quotes.
Yeah.
They're not going to take it to committee.
Right.
But you should know what your debt looks like because of the fourth negative thing to underwriting.
Okay.
Which is when you win, you have to send 10% of the purchase price non-refundable in cash to the auction platform.
You have to wire transfer it to them, I suppose.
Yeah, wire transfer 10%.
How much time do you have to do that?
24 hours.
After,
They say 24 hours, but they're calling your ass on minute 30 saying, where's my money?
Yes.
And then every 30 minutes until they get the money. And then when they get the money, they won't call you to let you know they got the money. You'll have to call them at that point and say, hey, did you get the money? Oh, yeah, of course we got the money.
That's the biggest. Out of all the negatives, that's number one, because that money is now pretty much gone.
yeah.
Now, it is 100% gone because in the PSA, at least the PSAs that we sign, it is released to the seller. It's not hard and credited towards the purchase price. It is released to the seller and then credited to the purchase price. So the money is literally gone. The title company doesn't even have it.
And think about that. If you're a seller and you've got let's say you have a nice asset, not a foreclosure or some ugly, piece of crap. You got something people want, and you just got 10% of the purchase price. Let's say it's a $6 million deal. You got $600,000 released in your pocket.
Wow.
You don't even want that seller or that buyer to buy it.
No, you don't.
Right? You just want to auction it again.
You're hoping he
I
doesn't.
love this. I got 10%, and so nobody's motivated to help you at that point.
Nobody.
You are on your own, and whatever you find that's negative on that property, you own it.
You will.
You will find something negative, and you own it now, unless you want to forego 10% of the purchase price, which is too painful.
If you do, I've got something I'd like to auction you.
Yeah. And so that's all the challenges that an auction platform presents over a traditional deal. So what does that mean? There are a lot of sellers that don't want to take risks. They aren't going to have liquid funds in the amount of the purchase price, that don't feel comfortable trying to close in 30 days. So you now have reduced the buyer pool significantly, and there's a potential that you've lowered the competition and you might be able to get a good deal.
Yeah, right. Okay.
100%. I mean, it's like a sheriff's auction. You know what I mean? How many people do you know that buy houses on foreclosure auction? I mean, it's a popular way of doing things. And if you ask them why, they'll say they go through the hassle because every now and then they find a good deal. It's the exact same thing. We're bidding on tons of properties. It's relatively easy to underwrite once you've got the models and the systems and you know what you're looking for. So to download the data, throw it in a model, and then, typically these auctions are 2 to 3 days. Day 1 to 2, you don't even need to be on. The last day, the last hour is really where you need to be on. And it's just important, if you're interested, to get a bid in, get a couple bids in. It doesn't matter. You think the property is going to sell for $10 million and it's at 5, bid 5, because it shows that you're interested. It shows that you're willing and able. It shows that you're paying attention. And if something were to happen to the winning bid or the second winning bid or the third winning bid and you're number 4, you're going to be on the short list of, man, who can we call to get to buy this property? Because like you said, the reason sellers are putting this property in the auction format is to get a guaranteed sale. Case in point, we bid on a property a couple weeks now. It was in April. It was a Wednesday, and we lost the auction. And we're watching it, and they're at the end. If somebody placed a bid in the last 2 minutes, they extended another 2 minutes, and you're sweating. You're like, man, where do we go? 6,150? Okay, are we sure? I'm hitting the button. Forgot the 5%. Crap. Whatever. But anyway, we lost the bid. Walk out of lunch with our heads held low. Next day, we call back and it says, hey, this is so-and-so from the auction house. Are you still interested in Stonewood Mountain? I'm like, yeah, sure. What's going on? Well, the guy who won the purchase, or the guy who won the auction, wants to renegotiate the purchase and sale agreement, and we don't do that, is what he said. Huh. I'm like, okay, well, what's it take? And he said, if you can honor your bid, we'll sell it to you. Sign the PSA, send me the money. So I we circulated phone calls. Hey guys, we have this opportunity.
I don't think we did. We didn't honor our bid, didn't we? Go lower.
First of all, I mean, you gotta seize the opportunity. You have to be able to spot an opportunity and grab it. So we did. We did. You said, hey, lock it up at 6.2 and send me the money, sign the contract. It's yours. And us, being the way we are, we're like, what about 6.1? He's like, well, I already got a signed contract at 6.1. I'm like, really? That's interesting. What if we're at 6.150? He said, well, that's more than 6.1. Sign it and send me the money, and it's yours. And we locked it up at 6.150.
Nice.
And we're buying the deal on May 16th.
So interesting. I want to comment on that because it's a good story, and we think it's going to be a good deal. None of what the person said to Braden on the phone was necessarily true. Mm-hmm. We don't know. And so that brings me to another point about auctions, is that the auction house will and does frequently bid against you.
Really?
And so now you think, oh, I'm bidding, and there's all these other bidders.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just bidding, and then you're bidding against yourself, and then they bid, and then you bid against yourself again.
Yeah.
And
To me, that seems unethical. But do they
Smells
at
unethical.
some point? Do they stop bidding? I mean, like if the reserve is hit or something like that.
I believe that they are not legally able to bid once the reserve is met. I think somewhere in the paperwork it says, "Hey, we have the right to bid up into the reserve amount."
Okay, and we
I
haven't
could
talked
be
about
wrong.
a reserve. What is the reserve?
The reserve, like any auction, is where the price has been met, and at that point, the next price
The
is
seller
being accepted.
The seller is putting in a
bare
the
minimum.
minimum that I'll sell it for is this much.
Correct. And if it doesn't hit that, the property isn't sold, and they try a different
Let's
platform.
clarify what it is it's the price that the seller has to sell you the property at.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
If you come in under the reserve and no one meets the reserve, the seller could still decide, okay, I knew I wanted 6 million was my reserve price, but they bid 5.8. I'm going to go ahead and sell it to them at 5.8. That's possible.
Which is huge, right? Because if you're thinking, oh, the reserve's not met, I'm good, I'm getting in a bid to be competitive, like Braden, Brian, and Joel said, I'm just going to be competitive and show interest, and then boom, you bought a property. We warned you.
Yeah, and so now you got to know you could still be liable for honoring your bid even when the reserve isn't met if they decide to sell. But that's the trigger is the reserve price. I don't think they bid once the reserve is met because it's a live deal. But in the case of our deal, could they have bid all the way up to the reserve? Was there another bidder that won that said they wanted to renegotiate? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there was. Maybe there wasn't.
Yeah,
Was there another signed contract at 6-1?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know legally if they have to tell the truth on all that. So for us, we always lean back on our underwriting, and we had gone into that deal saying that we wanted to pay 6.2, I believe, was the top dollar. And so we got it for 6.15. We had a chance to get a deal. It's not easy to find deals and get them under contract, so we did it. Yeah. But let me think what a couple other things. Like Braden was saying, the auction is about a 3-day deal, but really the main bidding gets going in the last 2 hours, and even the last 2 minutes. As long as someone puts a higher bid in, it keeps getting extended. 2 minutes. So the auction can theoretically go on forever.
It only gets extended 2 minutes.
2 or 3 minutes,
Okay.
maybe 5.
Because they figure everybody at this point is right there in front of their computer, ready to
Right.
go. If they see a higher bid, they should be able to decide.
You're already in expired time.
Yeah, you're on expired.
Yeah, and they lower the bid increment as they get closer to the
right.
reserve. It could
Okay,
go
so
from
when you're bidding, I'm sorry, you can't just go up by $1 or $2. There's a minimum 50,000 or 100,000 bid
there's
increment.
a minimum and a maximum. They set the bid increment.
And a maximum.
Well, it just is. It's a 250,000. You can go up by $250,000 increments.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can't bid whatever you want.
Okay.
You have to bid the increment.
And you're saying as it gets closer to the end, that increment
Correct.
drops.
That's why they're allowed to bid, right? Is so they bid up to the reserve. They get 1 to 3 to 5 buyers up to the reserve price, and then that's where we believe they have to stop bidding. Is when that reserve price is taken off and it says on the auction platform, "Hey, next bid, the reserve is met, and you are buying that property." It's very clear, and it's scary.
And it makes sense, though, to lower the bid increments, because on a $5-10 million deal, someone might not bid $10,200,000. Okay, but if they keep lowering that, and now the next bid can get it for $10,010,000, $10,005,000. Like it just keeps people engaged, and it drives that price up.
Right.
If I was in a position where I was bidding and it started to do that, I'm probably just going to bow out, because it's like that one site where it was like penny auctions, and these people would get involved and they'd be bidding a cent or 2 cents, but the bidding never ended, and they thought they were going to get the TV for 40 cents.
Yeah.
But pretty soon, it's just one more penny, and then they just can't keep from bidding it up because, one more penny, I got to see if I can get it. Well, no one stops because it's sunk cost. So I wouldn't be in favor of getting involved in a deal like that. But what else we got on the auctions?
Yeah, we've personally bought several deals on auction platforms on these sites specifically, and they've worked out great.
Not without their challenges or without the unknowns, but we have been able to make money on auction sites.
Yeah, so I think it's just another another little spot you're getting deals from. We've talked, how to find deals, but this is just another, way. If you are cash, rich and can show the proof of liquid funds up to the bid amount, or even if you're not, but you can find a partner or somebody who says, hey, if I could use your proof of funds, then I can make you a great deal if I get this property. Whatever, be creative with it. But this is a great way to find alternative deals that could be perfect for you. Could be a lot less competition. Could be some really good deals here.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Well, that's it. Make sure to like and subscribe on the YouTube and the Facebook. Share if you really loved it. And make sure to sign up for our investor list. It's howtoinvestinCRE.tv. And there's a button that says sign up for our investor list. It'll take you there and you will get access to investments just like that one in your email box all the time.
All right, guys. Till next time.
Thanks.